Welcome back. Time for our tweet of the night, brought to you by Tri-State Office Furniture. Jeff is one of our colleagues, Chris Adamski. He says over the past 50 seasons since Three River Stadium opener, Steelers season home records, 43 winning home seasons, 6 home seasons at 500, and 1 losing home season. That's a crazy stat.
We're spoiled, aren't we?
Unbelievable.
I mean, Steeler fans, I don't think they realize, because the bar is so high, you don't realize how spoiled you are until you spend some time maybe in another city and you know, wow, this is pretty special.
I have to agree. And of course, the Steelers have their home opener coming up here on Sunday, hosting Denver. Now, here's the issue. Of course, Stefan Wisniewski moved to injured reserve with that chest injury. Also, David DeCastro, who Wisniewski he actually replaced in that Monday night game against the Giants, he still hasn't practiced all week. So now it comes down to Kevin Dotson, the 4th-round pick out of Louisiana. He's the guy they're now relying upon to get it done at right guard. Jeff, this seems like a situation where on any other team it might be an issue, but with Dotson, this is a kid they really liked when they drafted him. I actually feel good about this, but I'm curious how you feel about Dotson in this position.
Boy, what a transformation for Dotson over a month, because when he first got into camp, there was an injury, and there was fear that he may be lost to a knee injury for the year. Now he's going to be the starting guard on this football team. And, you know, that right side of the line, you're going to have him and Chooks. Now, Chooks was in a tough battle with Zach Banner that obviously he lost. Now it's his position, and you have Dotson there. You know, they haven't worked a ton together. It's going to be interesting. I love the physicality. I love the road grader mentality that Dotson has. But, you know, you can't make up for the game reps, especially in passing situations. There's going to be some things thrown at him. He's going to have to keep his head. He's going to he will make some mistakes. And Ben Roethlisberger, if they can do what they did offensively in that first game, and what I mean by that is get rid of the football. Don't hang on, because you've got some young linemen and a Denver team that's probably going to be pretty aggressive even without Von Miller.
412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Give us a call. Phone lines are lighting up. Jeff, before we start taking calls and tweets, I want to get to this quickly. Jarrett McCann signs a 2-year extension, average of a little bit less than $3 million for the next 2 seasons. Your thoughts on this move? Was it a good one by Jim Rutherford?
You know, I like McCann. He's got to finish more. I mean, I think that's the biggest question with him. And do you have him as your third-line center, or is he better as a winger? I think he's better as a winger. I think if he could settle in, I think he worries too much as a wing, or as a center, about the wings. I think he just plays a better game when he's at wing. I mean, he had career highs in assists and points, but again, he needs to finish more. And that's kind of a recurring thing with some of the wingers that they have. They have speed, but they haven't been able to finish. Think about Simone and other guys on that line that are on that team that just haven't been able to get to that next level. If McCann can get to that next level, he's only 24. He plays the type of game that they like. I'm honestly surprised they were able to sign him at what relatively is a fairly cost-effective salary if he produces.
And to your point, 52 points in 98 games with the Penguins. That's the 6th most on this team in that span, and that's a number that they probably would like to see go up. Let's go to the phone lines. We start with Alex in Mount Lebanon. Alex, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good, Alex. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing good. Who do you think will score the Steelers' first touchdown on Sunday?
It's a really good question. I'm going to go with the passing game. I will say Eric Ebron in the red zone. Who you got, Jeff?
Man, you know, honestly, that's exactly who I was going to go with.
Really?
You know what I'm going to say? Just because I'm rooting for the guy, even though there's a lot of talk about him, I'm going to say James Conner is going to score that first touchdown.
It's a good pick. I'm hoping, even despite maybe the change in division of labor, that they can try to get some good production out of James Conner.
And you know, with all the, as an aside, for all the Conner criticism, and I get it, he's been hurt a lot. People want to see Benny Snell, and it may come to that. But man, all he does is goes out there and gives everything he has all the time and represents this city well. So I hope when people are critical of him, they can step back and at least think about what a good human being that is, and hopefully those two can marry, good human being and really good football player.
I know this is something that Mike Tomlin does not like doing, but it's a trend that's going around the league, and I think they might be better suited for them to follow it. They might have to look at trying to really, to use the Mike Tomlinism, divide up that division of labor and maybe try to preserve Conner and get more out of him while still getting the most out of Benny Snell as well. Let's go back to the phone lines. We got Tony in the Hill District. Tony, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, good evening, guys. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm
Hey,
fine.
Tony?
I want to know what you guys think about this. People was ripping and raving about Tom Brady and Gronkowski going into Tampa Bay. I mean, I know we still have a lot of football left and everything, but they ripped and rave about him being spectacular. This goes to show you, just because he's Tom Brady does not mean that he's going to win every game. And I try to make this point to people, like, they say, oh, he's going to be fantastic, he's going to give him a Super Bowl. I'm not going to say that, because he can lose like any other quarterback.
I'm not going to say it either. And thanks for the call. I think that's a great point. We talked about this last weekend. I believe the question I got was, who did I expect to have a better debut? Was it Belichick or Brady? My answer was Belichick, just because Belichick had an easier opponent. Because Tom Brady's facing the New Orleans Saints last week, they could still win the NFC South. They're my pick to win that division. So to Tony's point, I think he's right. Like, to just assume that Tampa's a legit Super Bowl contender when they may not win that division as long as Drew Brees is still in New Orleans, I'm not ready to write it off that quickly either.
Brady stinks. He was a systems quarterback. He was never any good. Goat this. You only cheated. The only reason you were good is because you cheated. You stink.
Man. I was not expecting that take from you. Wow.
You know what I remember, though?
What's that?
You know, they used to say that about Joe Montana in
did.
that 49ers offense. And then he went to Kansas City, and he didn't have the same type of numbers, but he did have success. I think Brady's in the same boat. I think they're going to look back and say, wow, he was never as good as he was then, but I still think he's going to have some success.
I think that's a really good analogy. It's a good way to look at it. One thing we haven't gotten to yet, I want to touch on this really quickly while we got a couple minutes. Pirates doubleheader against the Cardinals this afternoon going into this evening. Cardinals won the first game 6-5. They won the second game 7-2. A couple things stood out to me from those first couple games, from the first game and from the second game. One of them being Ke'Bryan Hayes. He was a guy that I mentioned throughout the course of that first game's worth of highlights. Now, granted, you know, we had Kevin Newman sack fly in the first inning that gave the Pirates the lead, but it was Ke'Bryan Hayes that he drove in. And then later on, Ke'Bryan Hayes drives in a couple runs with a base hit. Of course, Denman misplays it, and that turns into an extra run. But Ke'Bryan Hayes has been a guy that continues to produce, given the limited exposure he's had in the majors so far.
Is it really a stretch to say that he's the best player on this team right now?
I don't think so.
I don't think it's a question. I mean, he's got the most talent of anyone on that roster right now. And, you saw him. They eased him in, batting sixth, batting seventh. Now he's up to the top of the order. He doesn't look overwhelmed. You can tell he's a ball player's kid because he seems ready for everything that's coming at him. He's going to face some challenges. Of course he is. But, man, what we've seen from him, the way he handles himself and that glove, we haven't even seen the extent of that glove yet. We've both seen stuff in spring training and some of the exhibitions he's put on. But, man, at least he's something to watch.
Right.
And this year that obviously has gone south, at least you can tune in and say, I wonder what Ke'Bryan and lately as well, what Josh Bell might do.
That's true. You pointed out a good thing. You mentioned that he's a ball player's kid. This is why scouts and GMs and managers, this is why they value pedigree. Because if you have somebody in that household that can tell you what to expect and how to handle it, you're going to be a little bit more prepared than, say, the average kid that did not have a family member in the league. And I think that sticks out quite a bit. Also, I wanted to get your thoughts on Stephen Brault, his performance last night. I know it's not the two games tonight, but Stephen Brault getting a good start. And we talked about good humans merging with good ball players. We finally saw that with Stephen Brault last night.
Please, please, please let Stephen Brault be a really good pitcher because he is a media dream.
Yes.
Just because he's fun, he embraces it, he's not too big for any of it, and he allows the fans to see his personality. I really like Stephen Brault for all the facets of his personality, from his singing and acting and goofing around, and then to marry it with a complete game, a genuine complete game, not the 7-inning complete game, but a genuine 9-inning complete game. If he can find something, and he's had flashes. Remember his first couple of starts, he didn't give up any runs.
Right.
If they can find something on him, at least he could be a 4-5 as you look for next year and maybe help solidify a rotation that's got a ton of question marks, even though there are going to be some options there.
We will take a quick break. We come back. Hopefully we'll take another phone call or two before we wrap up. Stick around.